Hi, my name is Kris Hanvey, and I'm a mental health practitioner in Asheville, North Carolina, and I practice integrative psychiatry from a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner perspective. And in my practice, Asheville Holistic Healthcare, I look at not only mental health struggles and issues to help clients deal with those, but also look at physical issues that could be interplaying with their mental body and spiritual issues. So in this video today, we're going to really highlight one area of the physical body that can show improvements to help with not only the physical body but also the mental health body. And I use a company called Alletess to do IgG testing, which is food sensitivity testing. So what are food sensitivities? They're foods that we eat that we have a delayed reaction to that can upregulate inflammation in the body. And I have found this to be incredibly beneficial for some people, especially in the area of thyroid issues and in the area of pain, eczema, and things of that nature. So I have a guest on today who's going to discuss how food sensitivity testing has helped her. Welcome.
Thank you.
So first, can you tell me a little bit why you chose Asheville Holistic Healthcare?
So initially, my psychiatrist that I had at the time was moving on to a different path. So at the end of him leaving, he gave me a list of people to choose from. And I looked them over and I researched them and I said, none of these are for me. I had an inclination that I needed to do something different. I needed to be on less medication instead of more. And I'd heard of the word holistic, I never actually knew what it meant. So I searched holistic healthcare practitioners in Asheville. And upon reading your website, I thought, this is her, this is the right fit for me. And so I called you and I spoke with you personally and we set up an appointment.
Nice. So I, at some point in time when we had been meeting, I had mentioned the food testing. What were your first thoughts about the interplay between food and the physical body and the mental health body?
Honestly, I thought it was crazy. I thought you were crazy. I said, this woman is too abrasive. I am not going to do this. She doesn't know what she's talking about. But I went home and said, what do I have to lose? So you gave me the information. So I had my sister, prick my finger and I sent it off. And I prayed about it. I'm like, please do not let this be certain sensitivities. Like I couldn't live without it. And then I got the results at your office and I had most of my food sensitivities were inflammatory, especially gluten and dairy. And it didn't really, hit with me. So on the drive home, I was processing it. I get in my driveway and I just break down. I cannot do this. I've lived 30 years at the time eating a certain way and I can't. I'm not going to do this. And it took thinking about it. I remember for 2 weeks I was scared to eat anything. And then upon, research and speaking with you of the things, you can actually find more foods when you eliminate the foods that are harming your body. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't an overnight process and it was slow coming about that.
One of the questions when I try to encourage people to have this testing, and I just want to say that I do just the IgG testing, and it's $99 for 96 foods, which I find is affordable for most people. And I also find, from my perspective, that the testing not to be too onerous. Did you find it painful? Because a lot of times I'll have children in the practice or people who really are averse to having blood drawn. So can you tell
I didn't think it was physically painful at all. I think it was more of a mental thing, pricking my own finger, but we had to do it a lot of times because I wasn't bleeding, and even then it wasn't painful. It was a buildup.
Great. So can you talk a little bit about how you gave up the foods? Because I do think that is like a worry for people. Like we have definite attachments to certain foods. So can you possibly talk a little bit about the specific foods, what were most helpful, and how you were able to find other things over a period of time?
Yeah, so gluten and dairy obviously were the biggies, and that was the hardest for me, but I found dairy to be harder than gluten. So first, I didn't know much about it. I'm thinking, okay, I'll just look up gluten-free foods, but I found that those were just as processed as anything else out there. So then I said, okay, how can I not eat gluten and dairy in a non-processed way? And that's when I found whole foods. Eat from the earth. So, you know, for cheese, like people think I can't live without cheese. I was one of those people. But I have found that cashew cheese is delicious. Cashew butter is even better, you know, and it's from the earth. And that is what was most important to me. If I'm going to do this, I want to do this the right way. I don't want to just switch over to a different type of processed food, because that's what my diet was processed. And so, but just because it says gluten-free on the label doesn't mean it's gluten-free. And also, you shouldn't be reading labels in general. And that's what I found out worked best for me, was eating more whole foods. And at first I was hesitant because I didn't eat that way. And I think it was more of habitual than anything else. And you do adapt, your taste buds do adapt, I found. Yeah.
So I talked about the physical and the mental being intertwined. Has it made a difference with your physical body?
Absolutely, 100%. Like I've told you before, in my 20s I was surviving. I was hanging on by a thread since I was 18 years old. I constantly had health issues, thyroid, joint pain, skin problems, migraines. I couldn't lose weight. My hair was thinning. I had no energy, no sleep. All of that has changed to the point that sometimes I have to pinch myself and I get emotional about it, because I didn't think it was possible for me to feel this good, to truly be able to go 12 to 15 hours I work on my feet and not be in pain. And I am afterwards. I'm like, let's go do this, let's go do that. And I'm thinking, where is this coming from? But it just proves that what we put in our body is what comes out.
Can you speak to having been on medication for physical and mental issues, and how that's incrementally changed over a period of, how long has it been since
15 months.
Over the last 15 months?
I would say actually, I thought I would notice the physical changes before the mental, but I noticed the mental changes before the
Really?
physical. Yeah, because I think most of my problems stemmed from food, which contributed to my brain health.
Absolutely.
In my whole 20s, I was convinced that that's who I was. I was a mental health issue. I was physical ailments. And when I find out that these are being slowly eliminated, anxiety was the biggie. I constantly lived in a state of anxiety every day, not wanting to get up for fear of what I would be scared of. And now I think I'll get anxiety, but it's over something that's natural, to, you know, something that I can deal with, and I found ways to process that.
So would you recommend this testing to other people, and what would be your best advice to give them in terms of the short term and the long term challenges and benefits?
I would 100% recommend it to people. I would say that you will be scared at first. I was, just for the fear that something is being taken away from you. But when I looked at it like something is being added that is nurturing my body so much more, it's easier to take away what's harming you. And a lot of times we get comfortable with what is harming us, and we don't want to change, and that's where I was. Because that is your baseline. That is where you're always at. You're always at anxiety and feeling bad. But I would say you have nothing to lose. You know, what do you have to lose? $90. But that $90 changed my life, and it did. And I'm forever grateful for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.